Hey everybody, welcome back. This week we are going to look closely at a song by Squeeze called Black Coffee in Bed. Great little song. I don't know how to describe it, if it's sort of R&B, sort of pop, whatever it is, but very, very creative, great tune. If you clicked on this video, you know the song, obviously, but there's some interesting guitar parts that go through this, so we're going to focus on those, and especially the guitar solo. So hey, if you haven't already, love for you to go down and click subscribe and ring the bell. It lets you know every time I drop new content on lessons just like these. And also leave a comment and let me know if there's another song you'd like me to take on and do a detailed lesson on similar to this. And maybe my next one will be your request. All right, so let's get to it. So this song is basically in the key of D. I think the parts I'm going to talk about here are, there's a little piece on the intro. There's the basic sort of verse chords that go on. And I wanted to call out some interesting bass notes that go on with that chord. So, you know, if you just play the guitar chords without the bass notes in there, in some places it doesn't sound as full. So I'm going to show you what those are. And then of course we're going to cover the great guitar solo that you saw at the top of the video. All right, so the song is in D, and you know the main riff is, right? So that's the keyboard, the bass is, you know, doing that. So Glenn Tilbrook, who's playing guitar on this, he comes in and does a you know, a variation on that where he's got some major scale harmonies going on. So it's one of these. So that's all based off of the, you know, D sort of major, I don't know if it's a pentatonic exactly, but it's you're building those riffs off of this position of your D chord. All right, so look over my shoulder. I'll go through this opening riff a little slowly, but you'll see the fingering right on here. Ending on that D. So you're just sort of playing between that part of the D and you're getting up to that part of the D. All right, so the chords during the verses are very basic, and it repeats through that part. So then when it goes to the Now She's Gone, that's where the chords start to get a little interesting. F sharp 7, or that way. C sharp minor. And then here's where it gets interesting. The chord is A, but you got to put a G in the bass. I like putting the top notes on there. Next chord is a D, but you gotta slide down the F sharp. G7, or this one. Now you don't have to do those bass notes, but I think it just sounds better when you do. If you're playing this in context of a full band and your bass player is holding down those parts, then that's fine. But when it's just you sitting around, or when it's me just sitting around playing it, I like throwing those in. So again, that part is D sharp over a D, or a D over a D sharp. There's a bass note as an F, but it's sort of hard to lock that down. And it doesn't really sound right, so just play a G7. And then A sus, G. And you're back to the top again. All right. So let's talk about the great guitar solo now. So what's great about this was it sounds super jazzy. And when I say jazzy, I mean scales that I don't know. But really it's not. When you really break it down, it's very much rooted in very basic major scale and a little bit of sort of bluesy seventh stuff in there every once in a while, but it's very straightforward stuff. But when you play those over the chords and the bass movement that's happening underneath it, I think that's what gives it that super jazzy feel. So let me show you what I mean. So the guitar solo, so we've been in sort of the key of D the whole time. What happens is on this solo is it shifts up, it modulates to E flat, moves up a fret. All right, so I'll talk about the sort of chords that are happening. So the chords are that E flat, F, and that whole time the bass is holding down a D note, right? So you're sort of hearing this, it's not going to sound, or I mean, sorry, a D sharp the whole time. So it's sort of D sharp. When it slides up to the F, it sounds like this. Then it goes to a G with an E in the bass. And then an A, just a regular A with an A in the bass. Goes back to Now She's Gone. So that's what's happening underneath that solo, which makes it work. But the solo itself was pretty straightforward. All right, so I'm going to play it through one time in sort of real time, and then we'll break it down slowly. All right. Notice when I'm playing it, though, I'm actually not bending anything. I know I've seen them live. They play it live, and he bends some notes. When I listen to it on the record, it actually sounds more like he's purposefully not bending, and I'm purposefully also not bending. It sounds more like the record to me when you don't. Anyway, so you're ending in D, and you're gonna move up to D sharp. So that little climb goes like this. All right, so let's do that a little slower. So we're going to do our pickup. We're still in D. We haven't quite modulated to E flat yet. So we're going to start with this. All of that is D. All of that is basic D major scale. And then you land on your E flat, right? And everything is now moving into your E flat section. From there, you're just going to slide up on your E flat. Again, just major scale. So remember, at that point, we move to the F. So that's how we're moving from our E flat now we've slid down into our F, and we're going to go back up. So we're still in F, right? So this is major, chromatic climb. And when we think about our F chord, that's now chromatic going down from your F root. And again, that's still F. That's based off of that F shape. See what I mean about the not bending part? It sounds better when you're not bending it. All right. Now the next part is more slowly, so you can think of that as the tailing off of the F, moving up to a G. So I think of that as off of that part of the F chord. Landing on that G chord, right? So all that part where you're in F, you're here. So all that part when you're F, you're hearing, you know, all of this. Still in F, and now you land on G. Now it's just a straight up G major climb. And we're on A now. So we do this little slide based off of this A position chord. Right, so we're just sliding into our major third of our A. And then a chromatic walk down similar to what we did on the F. We're doing it on the A. And on the A note. Come up here to your, high A, this position A. And we're going to do, not going to do that. Right, so now we're sort of transitioning back to the chord that we're going to land on, which is D. So all these little last licks could be interpreted as part of an A chord, but really it's outlining D, and then we land on D. So again, so that was just outlining a D chord, right? And outlining that D chord. So all of this is off of, I think of it off of that D. All right, well, that's all the parts on Black Coffee in Bed we're going to cover today. Did you learn anything new? I learned a lot when I was trying to figure out that solo note for note and what was going on underneath it. I thought that was pretty cool. I thought it was way more jazz than it was. It sounds jazzy because of those chords that are going on underneath it, but it's pretty cool that the solo is just pretty much major scale all the way, you know, or basic all the way through. Maybe light intermediate. Okay. So if you haven't done so already and you like what you're seeing here, I'd love for you to go down and click subscribe and ring the bell. I drop content like this every single week. Would love to hear from you in the comments what you thought about this, and also if there's another song you want me to take on in a lesson just like this. I look at those every single week and I build them into my content plan, and maybe next week's could be the one that you suggest. So look forward to seeing those ideas. All right. So until next week, take care, everybody.